Hey, what's up? Hello, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. Today, the long-awaited Pinafore dress tutorial is here. Hey guys, hello, welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how I make my pinafores. So generally speaking, I make pinafore skirts. Now, I'm going to show you guys a new sort of style where I do sort of like the triangle top instead of the like suspender straps. But yeah, so today I'm going to be showing you guys how I make my pinafore dresses, which are basically just a circle skirt with some sort of strap holding up the top. Now, I'm a bit nervous because, first of all, I'm not great at explaining things I don't feel, so I'm a bit nervous about the tutorial, but I'm excited to just dive into it and hopefully it'll go well. I've written down some notes, so most of the explanation bits are going to be voiceover because I think that'll just be easier for me. But yeah, I'm excited, nervous, hopefully this goes well. I think that this dress could be a great thing to wear, a great option to wear to any of your upcoming holiday events. I'm going to be using a thick, heavy-duty tweed, so that will be great for keeping you warm in the winter. Speaking of tweed, let's actually talk about the materials you're going to need. So first things first, you're going to need some material. Now, I thrifted this material for $6.79. It is just a boat ton of plaid tweed material. It's massive. Now, the thing with making a circle skirt is most standard fabric is not long enough to be like an actual full-length circle skirt, the length that I like it to be. It'll hit just below the knee or just at the knee, generally speaking. So if you're working with traditional fabric and you want it to be a bit longer, your best option might actually be to do 2 half circle skirts if you want a full circle skirt, or you could just do a half circle skirt. This is a half circle skirt here, and I think it looks really great, and that is just made with standard material. I'll leave a link down below to some resources on how to do a half circle skirt, but in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how I do a full circle skirt, since that is actually the silhouette that I am hoping to do with this particular fabric. Now, I might end up having to do 2 half circle skirts if I think it's going to be too small, but we'll figure it out as we go along. Along with your main fabric, you're also going to want some sort of lining fabric. So this is just a sheet, an old sheet I used to have. So it's just a nice cotton, and that will just lay against my skin. So I wanted something to be quite soft. I also have a navy blue sheet that I've made a mock-up of the top bit with, and so because I've already made the mock-up with that and it fits well, I'm just going to use that navy blue for the top half of the lining, but I'm going to use the black to do the circle skirt lining. You're also going to need a zipper. I just grabbed this polyester all-purpose zipper, and it's an 18 inches, and it's a navy blue because there's some blue like stitching in that material, and then some matching thread. Other things you're going to want are a thumbtack, some either tailor's chalk or a water-soluble pen or marker, and then some pins and some measuring tapes probably. And you're also going to want a flexible sort of, tailor's measuring tape, one that you use for sewing and such. So that's sort of the plan. So I guess, without further ado, let's just hop right into it, I think. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is take your measuring tape and measure your waist. Now, you should make sure that you're holding the measuring tape at an appropriate tension. You don't want it to be too tight, but you also don't want it to be too loose. If you're doing it over clothes, make sure that you're pulling it tight enough that it's not going to add like extra inches with the clothing that you already have on. So I did pull mine a little bit tighter, but it was still a very comfortable tension because this is going to determine how tightly the skirt actually fits you. Once you've determined that, you are going to take your waist measurement. So mine was 38 inches, and you can add 2 inches. So I did do this for this project, but most of the time I choose not to, but because I was doing a tutorial, I wanted to like follow the formula to a T. So it's the waist measurement plus 2 inches divided by 6.28, which is pi times 2, and that will give you your waist radius. So once you fold your fabric in half on the ground, you're going to take your measuring tape and you're going to anchor it down. Once I did that, I just went ahead, marked my waist radius all the way around from the center of the folded side of the fabric. And then to find the length of your desired skirt, what you can do is you would do desired length plus waist radius, which will give you your length radius. Now, I wanted my skirt to be as long as it possibly could be, so I just marked from the center all the way to the end, which again I said was 15 inches. And I just did that all the way around the fabric, so that gave me my length. So you really don't have to do math there if you just want it to be a very long skirt, but if you are looking for a specific length, that is what you can do. Once you mark that out, I definitely recommend checking it twice. They always say measure twice, cut once. So that is what I did, and then I went ahead and cut it out. I did a similar thing for the lining, except for that I just made the lining shorter than the outside of the skirt because I didn't need it to be the same length. Okay, so once you have the skirt pieces figured out, you'll need to cut out the front pieces. So I have the measurements on the screen, and these are like my specific measurements, but you'll need to cut out 2 front lining pieces and 2 front garment pieces with these specific measurements. And then also you'll need to cut out 2 back lining pieces and 2 back garment pieces with these measurements. And then the final things you'll need to cut out, you'll need to cut out a waistband. I always make my waistband a few inches longer than my actual waist, and that gives me some room to add a clasp on the back of the waistband. I did make mine about 5 inches wide, and then it is around like 45 inches long. And then you'll need to cut out a piece of fusible or stitch-on interfacing depending on the material that you're using. Okay, so I'm working on the front pieces right now. So I showed you guys the measurements, and basically what I want to do, I do have like the hem pinned, but I'm gonna leave that for right now. That's just because I use this as a mock-up. But what I am gonna do is sew the dart. So basically to create a dart, you just fold the fabric in half and then you pin it on an angle, if you can see. So it's just a bit wider, so you're basically just making a little triangle. So I'm just gonna go ahead and sew this dart in, and this is the lining piece, so just want to make sure I'm doing it the right way because you're gonna want the raw side in and the raw side in on the showing fabric as well. So let me just double check to make sure I'm doing everything correctly. I mean, I think that's right. We'll see. So yeah, I'm just gonna turn my sewing machine on. A relatively small stitch. I'm in between a size 1 and a size 2 stitch, and there's no zigzag, and it's just straightforward. Yes, so you're literally just going to sew with the fabric folded in half, a straight line where the pins are, and you're just gonna want it to like fade out a little bit. So that is what I'm gonna do. I forgot to hit the record button when I was sewing that. But anyway, I'm gonna do the same thing now for the nice fabric, the showing fabric. So I'm gonna show you guys just really quickly how I did the dart. So I drew a triangle. I'm sure it's really hard to see. I drew a little triangle with the tailor's chalk on the fabric. It's just right here. And so I'm just going to fold the fabric together until, like, you know, it's to the point. And then I'm just gonna pin it. And that, my friends, is how you make a dart the simple way. Okay, so you guys will see this later, but I did actually end up going in and making a sideways dart as well. So I'll show it to you guys later, like the placement of the dart, but this would be the time where you would want to add that dart into your fabric while you're doing the other one. And it is just to sort of make the fabric have a bit more of a curve so it fits around your chest appropriately and it fits a little bit better instead of just being like flat and there being weird gapping. Okay, so now that I've done all the darts, what I want to do now is, honestly, I might end up having to do a dart in the back pieces. I don't know. We'll see when we get there. But what I want to do is attach the pieces at the shoulder seam. So I'm going to just attach, you know, one front piece to one back piece at the shoulder. So I just want to make sure I have the right ones, the right pieces. And I want them to be the wrong sides facing out. So, like, you know, the dart will be facing out so I can see it. So here's like the sewn part of the dart, and that way when I flip it, it'll, like, the seams will be on the inside, if that makes sense. Perfect. And so yeah, I'm just gonna sew right across the shoulder seam right here. I'm gonna do that for both pieces, and then after that we're gonna attach the liner, and then I'm gonna try it on and see if it fits. If you are looking for something more beginner friendly, I absolutely recommend just doing a suspender strap instead. It's equally cute, and you can either sew it on with like a box stitch, or my personal favorite is doing like big sort of statement buttons in the front and the back, and that way you can have the skirt with the suspenders and without it. So I actually recently, the skirt I showed you guys earlier, my Greg skirt from my Halloween costume, is made that way, and so it has the buttonholes and like the statement buttons that are just sewn onto the skirt, and then you can either leave the suspenders on or take them off. I'm gonna leave them on because that's like the style I like, but it makes it an even more versatile piece for your wardrobe. So yes, let's sew the front and back pieces together at the shoulder seams inside out. Okay, so the next thing I'm gonna do is attach the lining to the bodice bit. So what I'm gonna do is just line up the shoulder seams, and you want to do it pretty side to pretty side, so you want the good sides touching, meaning the exposed edges are on the outside, because we're gonna flip this the right side out afterward, and that way all of the seams will be inside of the material. So I'm gonna go ahead and pin it at the shoulder seams, trim whatever excess I feel like I need to. I'm not going to trim all of the excess now. I'll sew it and then trim it afterward, especially because the lining is massive since I had it pinned and didn't like cut it down to like the correct size. So I'm going to go ahead and just attach all of that, and then I'm going to leave the bottom back open so that I can just sew that together afterward, but I need to be able to turn the garment right side out. So I'm just going to leave one seam open, and yeah, go ahead and do that. Alright, party people, moment of truth number one. I'm gonna flip these inside out. Oh, I must say, I did not worry about pattern matching. It didn't matter that much to me. So I didn't do anything with it, but surely you could have if you wanted. Alright, so this is piece number one. Of course I need to press it, but I think it's gonna fit. I think we're gonna be alright. Yeah, and then you'll just attach it to the waistband. So I'm gonna go turn the other one, and then I'm gonna just go and take this to the iron and flatten everything out, and then we can move on to the skirt. You guys, this actually turned out so well. Oh my gosh, I'm really happy with the top bit so far. So of course they'll like just barely meet right in the front. There's plenty of space to connect them in the back. I think this is gonna look so good. Honestly, I was a bit nervous, but I do think it's gonna look really nice. So now onto the skirt. So I'm gonna set the lining aside, but here's this part of the skirt. And this is basically what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna put my phone down. So sorry if the audio gets weird. But basically, here, I'll just step on through it, and oh my gosh, this is gonna be so cute. I wish I would have traced this out onto pattern paper, because oh my gosh, this is so cute. Alright, so now that I've tried the skirt on, what I want to do is just go ahead and attach the waistband. So the first step is to cut out actually interfacing, and that is just to give the waistband a bit more structure so that it's nice and firm and it sits really cozy on your waist. So I have fusible interfacing, so I'm just gonna cut out enough to, you know, iron onto the waistband bit. I like to make my waistband several inches wider than my actual waist measurement, and that way I have a little bit of extra wiggle room. So it fits nice and snugly, and there's enough room to insert a clasp. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. So let's take you to the iron with me. Okay, so this is interfacing. It's just like the stuff you can buy in a roll. This is some pretty heavy duty interfacing. I'm just gonna cut out my interfacing. I generally cut it into strips. I don't think it matters that much, but I feel like there's less waste that way. So I'm just gonna do that. And then I will just iron it on. Just follow the instructions on your interfacing. All interfacing is different. Also, there is fusible interfacing, which is what this is, and then there's also sew-on interfacing. So just make sure that you pick out the right one. Both serve a purpose. So there are definitely certain fabrics you can't like really iron on. This is the kind you would want to use a sewable interfacing for. But yes, let's get to doing this. Now that I've put the interfacing onto the waistband, I'm just folding it in half, and I am gonna sew the one end right here so that it's a finished edge, and then I can turn it inside out. I'm gonna do the same thing for the other side, though I may end up having to cut it off and shorten it, but it's just so it has a clean edge. And then I'm gonna pin it onto the skirt. Okay, so I definitely pinned on my waistband backwards at first. I don't know what I was doing, but basically what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to pin your waistband pretty side to pretty side, and you're going to want to line up the bottom of the waistband with the top of the skirt. So that way you can easily just sort of flip it over and it will have a nice hidden seam. Hello friends. Okay, so I have attached the waistband on the front of the skirt, so it's still not attached on the inside. So now what I'm going to do is sandwich the lining in between the waistband, and then I'll just roll the raw head or the raw edge underneath. I'm just going to line up the slits for the zipper on here, so it's right here. I'm actually going to just baste this closed, and then I'll line it up with the other, and then I'm just going to sandwich it in between. So I'll show you that when we get there. Guys, it is day 2. I am actually going to a mindful movement class this morning, so I didn't want to get all dolled up to film yet, but I have like 2 hours before the class, so I figure I can start on sewing the inside of this waistband down. So basically what I'm gonna do is I want to grab this inside layer of the fabric. I want to grab both like pieces that are folded. I want to grab the lining, and then I also want to grab not the visible part of the outside of the waistband, but the inside layer, like one very small stitch. The goal is to hopefully not be able to see where it's been stitched down on the inside from the outside. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that now. And yeah, so let me zoom you in and I'll show you guys what I'm trying to do here. Okay, so essentially what I'm doing here is in small diagonal stitches going across the waistband, I'm grabbing the sort of seam layer where the front of the waistband is attached to the front of the skirt, the lining, and then both layers of the back of the waistband that is inside of the skirt. And I think this is called a felding stitch. I prefer to hand sew my waistbands on. You absolutely could do it by machine. It's called stitching in the ditch. So you just have to like stitch directly where the seam is on the front of the skirt already, which is totally doable. I just find this to be easier, and I also like how it looks more. So I am just hand stitching down the inside of my waistband, and there's actually quite a bit of hand stitching in the rest of this video. I do quite like a bit of hand stitching in a project, so I'm sure there's plenty of other ways you can do this. This just happens to be my preferred method. Okay guys, so I am back, and the plan for right now is to get the zipper in. So I've gone ahead and cut a really ragged and poorly done slit down the side. It looks good on this side, not on the other side. I don't know what happened. I think the fabric must have slipped and I cut a bit of the lining, so I'll just have to throw a couple of stitches in there. I actually ended up having to take the skirt in quite a bit, so that issue kind of resolved itself. One thing I didn't mention is, so especially if you're cutting your waistband longer than your actual waist, make sure you measure it and that you fit the skirt within your waist size and not within those extra inches, which is something I did not do well. I was about an inch or so off, so I did need to like bring it in quite a bit. So yes, just make sure that you put a pin at the far end of the waistband where you want all of the fabric to fit within, and that way you can sort of gather it or bunch it a little bit if you need to bring it in, whatever it is that you have to do. So just something to keep in mind that I forgot to mention. But what I have is I've cut a slit and then gone ahead and basted it closed so that you have like this little sort of envelope little looking thing on the inside of the skirt. And so now what I want to do is take the zipper. Now my zipper is a bit longer than what I need it to be, but that's okay because you can just cut it off if it's too long. It's better to be too long than too short. And now what I'm going to do is just take some pins and pin it down right over top of where the basted seam is. And I'm just going to go in and hand sew the zipper in. And if I feel like it needs to be reinforced, I'll go ahead and reinforce it on the machine. You can definitely just like hand sew it in as well if you want. So like I said, again, if I feel as if it needs a bit more reinforcement, I'll probably do that. But if not, I'm just gonna hand stitch it. So that is the plan. So yeah, this is really easy. You just do a running stitch. So I'm actually gonna pin it first just to make sure. So yeah, you just do like a straight stitch, running stitch if you will. And I'm actually gonna tuck the raw edges underneath so that it gives it a clean finish on the inside. Okay, so then once you've completely attached your zipper, whether that's by hand sewing or machine sewing, you're gonna go ahead and take a seam ripper and rip out the basting stitches. So not the stitches that you just sewed in to the zipper, but the basting stitches that were keeping the pieces of fabric closed so that you could make sure that the zipper was adjusted correctly. So yeah, you're just going to take a seam ripper and rip those out, and then your skirt will be good to go and the zipper should work out just fine. And if you end up needing to cut the bottom of your zipper, just make sure you sew quite a few lines across the bottom, but making sure not to go all the way through the fabric so that you don't see the stitch lines from the outside. So I finished the skirt and now I'm just like pinning on the top bit. So if you wanted to just make a circle skirt, you could stop here. You're good to go. I just need to attach like a closure in the back. I think I'm just gonna go for a button closure. I think that's just gonna be, it's far enough over that I think it'll be easy to button. So I'm just gonna go with that and I think it'll look really cute. And so now, like I said, I'm just adjusting this and like pinning the front bits on. Now I'm home by myself. I think that this would be easier to do if you have a buddy. So I'm gonna wait for my parents to get home to help me button or pin the back. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and pin the backs on and then sew the front and the back. I am actually going to hand sew this, I do believe. There's a lot of hand sewing involved in this just because I don't want those seams, I don't want the stitches to be seen on the front. And hand stitching can be just as strong as machine stitching. You just have to really take your time. So that's what I'm gonna do, and that way I'm not grabbing the outside of this piece. Now what you could do if you don't want to do hand stitching, if you don't think that that will be like strong enough, you can just go ahead and do a top stitch all the way around the waistband. And I think it would look really nice if you did a top stitch So you would literally just lay it like this and then do like a top stitch all the way across. And then you can do a top stitch on the bottom as well, and I think that that could look really cute too. I personally like sort of invisible seams, and that's why I'm going to go ahead and just hand sew it on, because I think that'll look the best for what I'm looking for. So yeah, it takes a little bit longer, but I don't mind. I'm just watching White Christmas while I do this, so it's not a big deal for me. This is definitely a project you need to make sure you have plenty of time to just sit down and tackle. But yeah, I'm happy with how this is coming out, and I'm happy with the hand stitching approach. Doesn't bother me at all. Okay, I apologize for the lighting, but this is what's happening. So far, I think it's looking okay. This is annoying me a little bit. The waistline's a little squiggly, but I think it will resolve itself. So what I'm gonna do is, I had my dad pin the back, so that part is pinned. I'm gonna make sure I sew the back pieces on first, and then I'll sew the button on. And then also, I decided I want to put a couple of darts just on the sides here to just make them fit a little bit better, and then that should be everything. It's looking good aside from that. So yeah, we're just gonna I'm gonna sew these pieces on by hand like I did with the front, do the hem, add the button, add the other dart. So yeah, I guess here's the review. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. I forgot to film an outro. Sorry about it, but I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I had so much fun putting this video together. I'm not great at tutorials, so hopefully you guys found this helpful nonetheless. But yeah, I am obsessed with the end product, and I hope you guys are too. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Also, if you guys decide to recreate this look, please feel free to tag me on Instagram at XOXO Glitterbug. I would love to see your creations, especially if you were inspired by this video. But yeah, anyway, like I said, I don't think I really have all that much. I don't know if there's going to be a video next week. This next week is going to be just like bonkers, so I'm not 100% sure if there's going to be a video or not. I'm going to do my darndest to get one out, but just know that it's possible there won't be. Anyway, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed. Also subscribe if you aren't already, and if you are new. If you want to see more fashion related content from me, I upload fashion related videos every single Wednesday. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have for you. So don't forget, it costs absolutely nothing to be kind, so be kind to yourself and others, and I'll see you next week. Bye.